Tony Vitello's message to Vol Nation, the Giants and their player priorities, and the timeline of the upcoming events, as well as logistics. It's all coming up on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. My name is Alan Stiles. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento now, and I host a show at Sacktown Sports 1140 as well. The Alan Stiles Show, 10 a.m., 2 p.m. Be sure to check that out. And IMC Sacramento Rivercast games. All in all, I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. Today, we break down Tony Vitello's statement to the Tennessee Volunteers. We talk about the Giants and how they could prioritize their needs this offseason and some timelines and logistics for what is next for the organization. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So the big news to end the week last week was in addition to, obviously, Tony Vitello making his way to the San Francisco Giants, Tony Vitello did give a statement to Vol Nation. So I have the first bit of it, and then I've kind of summarized what he had to say. I just think it's interesting from the Giants perspective and Giants fans perspective, just to know the type of guy he is, the type of impact that he made on that community, and how he wanted to go out. Now, we'll get into the logistics a little bit later, but October 30th, so Thursday, that's when we will hear from Tony Vitello and get introduced to him there at Oracle Park on King Street. So this is what he had to say. Quote, "By now, you all know I officially accepted a position to babysit Drew Gilbert." Nicely done there. "Normally, I don't read to y'all, but hopefully I can just get through some notes without any tears. There's been a lot. Had to watch some Leanne Morgan to stop here and there a few different times, but here we are. I just wanted to kind of get some things out there and not have any regrets. So that's why I wrote some notes down. First off, just people saying bye and everything like that. I'm not going anywhere. So real estate people, quit texting me. I'll figure out what I want to do. But whether it's football games, basketball games, supporting these guys in some form or fashion, I'm not going anywhere. I don't know if this will get me in trouble, but in my mind, a goal is to come back to Tennessee in some capacity, whether it's part-time, living, or some other job way down the road, or maybe I go back to Nashville and become a country singer or something like that. But that's something that stuck out in my head because obviously I feel like this was a great place for me." I want to stop there, and then I have again the breakdown of all the other stuff that he said. I did think, I'm not trying to do the thing because I know when you leave and you're emotional, you say stuff, but I did find it just a smidge interesting, and I get it. He's kind of placating a little bit to the home base. It's tough because he's leaving. I did find it just a smidge interesting that he said the goal is to come back. Obviously, that could be, 10 years down the road? He's only 47, 10 years and 3 World Series later. But, you find yourself in, and he didn't say, I'm going to come back and coach. He said in some capacity. But yeah, I definitely, and I know Tony Vitello can read the room, definitely would not suggest to say anything like that for the intro presser. And I don't think he will, but I did find it, and he said it himself, I might get in trouble for this, but in that moment, nobody is going to get in trouble. I just thought it was interesting because it was so soon in what he had to say, and, probably a lot of different emotions going on there. I did at least raise my eyebrow, but he's not going to be the manager forever. And like I said, that could be 20 years from now. At 67, he could go back to old Rocky Top and hang out. So yeah, it made me go, oh, okay. Just making sure that you want to stay connected. But yeah, I didn't, as far as getting in trouble, I don't think he'll get in trouble or anything like that for saying he wants to come back in some capacity. Now, if he had said, I want to come back and coach these guys again at some point, then that might have been a little bit different. Then they might have said, all right, well, let's can we get you to San Francisco before you talk about leaving San Francisco? So no harm, no foul on my side, but I am pretty sure some people out there might feel some type of way. So I have some other kind of takeaways from what he said. He called his move to the Giants a, quote, selfish decision, acknowledging that it was driven by personal reasons and not a reflection on Tennessee or the program's future. He expressed deep gratitude to the Volunteers community, saying that if his last day on campus as an employee or wearing orange was truly his last, the fans' presence made it very, very special. He clarified his decision came after serious discussions with his assistant coaches and players. He emphasized that he needed their support and wanted to make a choice he felt right about. Only after he felt his boxes were checked did he decide. That's fascinating too, because I don't know how much the players did no, hey guys, I'm thinking about leaving you. What do you think? Or, that Saturday when everything got out, I wonder if there was a conversation. If everybody remembers, 72 hours came and went. I do wonder if that extra day, and I've been on record saying I think that it got out a smidge early, which is what happens nowadays, but that 72 hours, it took longer than that because I think he maybe didn't believe it was going to get out that Saturday when it did get out, and maybe a little bit later, but maybe that was that whole, what was it, practice gate or scrimmage gate, when everybody said, well, he's here. Is he crying? Is he hugging people? What's going on? Maybe that's where he had the conversation with them and took that extra day, just to get their thoughts on everything. That's possible. So, that is, that would make more sense. He made it clear his attachment to Tennessee remains strong, calling himself a Vol for life. I mean, in my opinion, I'm looking at this like a situation that they've created that they've already kind of had, because the Giants have a ton of former Volunteers players in their system already, but it's a pipeline now, right? Hey, you got a Tennessee now. Obviously, you can draft whoever you want, other teams, but that connection and guys that are already in the league, there's Christian Moore in LA, right? Or in Anaheim with the Angels. There's there's the outfielder. He's a stud. His name escapes me now, on the Rockies, right? There are a lot of guys floating around. So if some of these guys end up popping and end up, really doing some things in the league, you never know, free agency and stuff like that. So I definitely think it does matter. In short, while Vitello is stepping away into a new chapter with the Giants, he definitely wanted to make it clear how meaningful Tennessee was to him, how much he valued the relationships, and how tough the decision was. Whenever you have these decisions, could be any type of breakup, right? Or leaving any type of job, you want the person you're leaving, or you want the job to leaving. I mean, a lot of jobs just say, okay, see you later, but you want them to know how difficult it was. And it might not make them feel better, but I think in some ways it does. Hey, we've had a good run, but at this point in time, I think I got to do what's best for me and move on to whatever that is in life. So I would say good stuff to Tony Vitello. He knew what he had to do. I can't wait to hear him on the 30th and, see what he has cooked up for the Giants fans and the Giants side of it. But just wanted to give you a little breakdown of all that, because that came out right on Friday as I had released the last episode. So in case you missed it, and I know everybody saw the Drew Gilbert quote, but wanted to go a little bit deeper into what he had to say. On the other side, let's discuss prioritizing the Giants' needs. We know they have a couple, but which one should be number one, number two, and number three? Don't move. More Locked On Giants coming up. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Life is about prioritization. My mother taught me this at a young age, and it still follows me now with my own kids, and hey, do we need to give somebody a bath, or do they need to get their teeth brushed, or who needs to eat? Prioritizing is perfect, as well as obviously doing stuff in your personal life outside of them, and you're trying to make sure that everything makes sense. Prioritizing makes a lot of sense, and prioritizing is very important, and that's where the Giants are right now. They need to prioritize, and there are a lot of needs that the Giants have. Some are larger than other. I would say the main needs for me that we're going to prioritize is you need another bat. That goes without being said. You need at least one more bat. You need at least one more starting pitcher. You need, I would say, a couple of bullpen arms. So that's kind of a little bit harder to prioritize the same way. And from a position player standpoint, the outfield needs to improve. Right? The outfield needs to improve. So if you use it as a Venn diagram and you are seeing where the overlap is, and I don't know that Tony Vitello is going to like this very much, I would say that based on what happened from a position player standpoint, it would probably be right field for me. And I know, look, I see everybody, and I appreciate all the comments. A lot of people want to upgrade on Elliot Ramos. I feel you on that. I would have to see, and I'm always talking and trying to figure out what is going on throughout the league, what Elliot Ramos's value is. I've said before, I mean, you could do a top 30, maybe a couple top 30s, and Elliot Ramos for a Hunter Green situation. I would be open to that. Don't get me wrong, because we're about to talk about another priority that the Giants have. The funny thing is, as I say, they need another bat, and I'm willing to move off of a bat. That's because, and I've said it ad nauseum, when it comes to Elliot Ramos and what he brings to the table and what his bat is, look, he had, 20 bombs, man. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. I'm just trying to figure out where it fits, and if what he did, if I'll put it to you like this, you had Willy Adames hit 30, you had Elliot Ramos hit 20, and they missed the playoffs to the lowly Reds. No disrespect to the Reds, but the Reds didn't even think they were going to be in the playoffs. So what it tells me is that I'm not sure, and I've actually never said this out loud, and I don't mean it in a negative way, even though it's going to sound like it. Elliot Ramos is hitting as a total, in addition to everything else that he brings to the table. It's just not. It's not a part of winning baseball, and that's not really Elliot Ramos's fault. It can be, but not on this Giants team, not on this past season, because we just saw it. So if you can move off of Elliot Ramos, and even if there's somebody that doesn't hit as well, to get a pitcher or to get something that makes more sense for this team, then you have to do it. And I know I started this by saying I'm not trying to move Elliot Ramos, and here we are. I understand what everybody is saying. With all that being said, he's not number one on my priority list to move. Now, if he helps you acquire something else, then cool. Number one on my priority list, and I guess we can separate this because starting pitching is obviously the most important. Pitching wins championships, defense wins championships. We know that from the even year championships, all three of them. But if we were to separate that, I would say it has to be right field for a couple reasons. Number one, you are just not very good defensively in the outfield. I'm not trying to get Jung-Hoo Lee fans mad at me again, so I'm going to leave it, and Jung-Hoo Lee can stay in center. That's fine. Okay. It's Monday. I don't want anybody commenting, whatever, hitting me up on Instagram or Twitter, and follow me at _Styles with an I. I'm not, Jung-Hoo Lee, today is not the day. Now I'm going to make another group of people mad at me because who I do want to improve on, it's not just him, it's a position, but it would be right field. And the reason I'm prioritizing right field over left and over second is because at least in those two other spots, those guys can hit, right? If you're going to give up some defense, at least Elliot Ramos can hit. So if you don't end up moving him for a starting pitcher or whoever, he can hit big league pitching, and hitting big league pitching is right there. You might not want to admit it, but hitting 20 bombs at the big league level for how much people do want to bag on Elliot Ramos, that's really important. And that's not that easy to come by, especially on the Giants. We should all know that. So it can't be left field. It can't be second base to me because I thought Casey Schmidt played really well to end the season. And I just think he deserves that Elliot Ramos year to see if, okay, are you really going to be the guy for us, right? They couldn't find someone. They had some issues locking that down. You had Tyler Fitzgerald, who, kind of looked like a Jeremy Lin, the situation where he cooled off and couldn't figure it out. And they were just rotating different second basemen until Casey Schmidt said, hey, I'll take care of business and get this thing done. So to me, Casey Schmidt has earned at least a go there, second base. And it's something you can come back to. This is just to start the season. My priority list to start the season. This could always turn into, hey, Casey Schmidt, you go out, you get your right fielder. Hey, Casey Schmidt's not figuring it out, whatever it is, or it's just not enough, or you just want to improve. Maybe it's just, hey, we think we can find somebody that can be even better than Casey, and you make a trade, right? That is always possible in baseball. So this is just for the beginning of the season priority list, I would say. And again, removing the starting pitcher conversation because that's obvious how important that is. It'd have to be right field. It would have to be right field because you cannot have a hole at right field and no disrespect to Patrick Bailey, kind of a hole at the catcher position as well. And you have streaky hitters that you're actually paying big money to. So you cannot combine all those things. If you were making a gumbo, that is a 500 gumbo if I've ever heard one. That tastes like it's a little bland. It needs a little salt. It needs a little Cajun seasoning, whatever it is. So to me, you just can't afford to go into the season. Now, maybe they deem second base is more important than right field or left field. They're okay moving on from Elliot Ramos, but from the outside looking in, that gave you the least offensively in an offensive position. Let's think about that as well. Right field, it's not as if you're, your center fielder or your shortstop or your catcher. It's not as if it's one of those positions that's struggling, right? And you say, okay, well, it's a premium spot defensively. So it's not great, but it is what it is. Right field, that is 4 hitters. And I know the right field at Oracle Park, is this a difficult right field to play? I get all that, but it's right field. Not center. It's not even second base. Third base. It's not even first base, right? First base, you got to stretch and scoop and do all this stuff. It's not even first base. So you cannot have an offensive hole at right field. You can't do it. You cannot do it. I would say right field is a little tougher than left field. Don't get me wrong, but at least you're getting hitting from left field. You're not getting anything from right field. So to me, that is the number one priority if we're removing the starting pitchers. You cannot let right field just be a hole. There are too many big bopper outfielders out there and some that you can get at a good price. Too many out there to just sit there and run a carousel of guys that you're not really sure if they're going to be in the league, for the next 5 years. I just don't think the Giants, and you know what? The more important piece of this is the Giants just don't have the time. If this was a bad Giants team that had a rookie at shortstop or a third-year guy at shortstop. Let's say this. If you weren't paying the shortstop and you weren't paying the third baseman and you weren't paying the center fielder and you weren't paying the first baseman and you were more so in a rebuild period, then let them all swing. I don't care. That's what we said a couple years ago when they weren't winning. Hey, get the kids in and see what happens. But you have too many big-time guys, and Logan Webb, that's the guy we don't talk about. Logan Webb just sitting there, I don't want to say wasting away, but Logan Webb is just pitching every single season, balling out for a team that can't make the playoffs. And he ain't getting any younger. He's about to hit 30. So I just don't think you have the time to sit there and let somebody figure it out. And I don't think you have a ton of time at second base either, but at least Casey Schmidt showed you a little something. He was your everyday guy. They don't have an everyday right fielder, and I don't know that in the West, every position matters. everything matters. So I would say right field is number one for me. One more segment with you. Let's get into some of the logistics and timelines when it comes to Tony Vitello and what's next for the San Francisco Giants. More Locked On Giants. Don't move. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. One more segment with you. Hope everyone had a good weekend. And we are avoiding a case of the Mondays as we break down all things San Francisco Giants. So just wanted to give some updates on logistics and timelines and some really great notes from Shayna Rubin of the SF Chronicle just on how this assistant coach search may go. So number one, I said it earlier in the show, but if anybody was curious, October 30th is the press conference. So October 30th is when we will see Tony Vitello in the building. We will get to feel his aura, if you will, as the kids say, and get a better feel for who he is, why Buster was in love with him so quickly, and what his plan is. Obviously, he's not going to get into the nooks and crannies of everything, but what his plan is, what his philosophy is, and I'm really excited to hear from him on the 30th, the day before Halloween, a black and orange. So it all kind of lines up for the Giants there. So that is the first thing, and I guess next on the docket. As far as the other coaches, that should happen fairly soon in the coming weeks. This is what I wanted to kind of read from Shayna Rubin's article on SF Chronicle. Be sure to check that out. Before he's formally introduced as the Giants manager on Thursday, Vitello is assuredly spending plenty of hours on the phone putting together ideas and names of coaches he's most comfortable with, those in his circle of trust who might want to follow him to San Francisco. If Vitello wants to pull from his staff at University of Tennessee, he'll have to sell associates who may have families rooted in Knoxville on leaving a less taxing college schedule for the 162-game MLB grind. There are also coaches who are close to Vitello who have rich resume in professional baseball. Jace Tingler, who managed the San Diego Padres and is currently the bench coach in Minnesota. It's always Minnesota, is one of them. But Vitello won't be calling every shot. Deciding who fills out the major league coaching staff will be a collaborative effort with the Giants front office, and it's likely Giants decision makers will prefer to fill the dugout with professional coaching experience to help Vitello navigate his first foray into the pros. So that's from Shayna Rubin. Great stuff as always. I love getting caught up in everything she has to say. And I think all of that makes sense as far as the timeline and where the Giants are trying to go and what they're trying to do. One note that did stick out to me is Vitello trying to pull some of his guys from Tennessee. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a 60-game schedule. We discussed it a little bit last week. 60-game schedule, games on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, one midweek game, sometimes two midweek games. I think the biggest thing, in my opinion, we knew Vitello, not the pocket watch, but we knew Vitello was making a pretty penny at Tennessee. I don't know if that also trickled down to his coaches, because he really wanted to make this stretch. It wasn't as much about money because he was already the second highest paid college coach. It wasn't that much about money. He was making more than some MLB coaches. But when it comes to the assistant coaches, maybe, just maybe, that's where the money aspect may come into play more if they weren't making as much as assistant coaches at Tennessee, which again, I have to kind of dive deeper into it. Maybe going to and just being able to say I'm a Major League Baseball assistant coach now versus I'm a college assistant coach. Maybe the juice is worth the squeeze there for some of these guys, but it's not going to be a lot. I think it's going to be a healthy medium of guys that Buster feels or the organization feels would be good for the Giants to bring in. And then you have Vitello. Hey, you have one or two right-hand men that you want to bring in and you feel comfortable to help make this transition, to make it more comfortable for you. When I went to Temple, I had a buddy who was a year older than me. So he was already at Temple. So he was from the Bay. He was from San Carlos. So when I got out there, I already knew who he was. There was also a dude from Hawaii, but we had played each other prior to being at Temple. So that helped make me feel more comfortable. I actually had an uncle out there as well in Philly. So it made me feel more comfortable, even though I wasn't from Philadelphia. I'm obviously from the Bay. So being able to pull on the strings of different guys out there. Hey, I'm going to, I decided in part to go to Temple because I knew, hey, well, at least I have a guy out there and it will make me feel more comfortable versus some of the other places where I would just be by myself. And I do feel the reason I bring that up is because I feel that being comfortable definitely matters when it comes to performing, right? If you are completely uncomfortable, and we've heard this before, these guys hate mid-season trades because they're humans. They're very rich humans, but they're humans. So all of these things are kind of in the same category where it's being able to feel comfortable in a situation, and that helps you perform at the highest level. I would imagine a couple weeks from now, maybe even a week or so, once he gets introduced, we'll start to hear some names come out. I have a couple, again, the Jace Tinglers of the world that Shana Rubin brought up, but there are definitely some names floating around. There are definitely some kind of heavy hitters, if you will, from a, relatively speaking, from a assistant coach point of view. And I think that Giants fans will be happy with what the Giants are cooking, what they're putting together. And again, that hybrid culture of college, and of course, you're in the show now, you're in the big league. So I think it's great stuff. We will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you for listening and watching Locked On Giants. Been a lot of good interaction these days, so I really do appreciate it. We will get back to, look, man, there's Bryce Harper talk to get into. That's coming up. There's a lot, obviously, the starting pitcher. So we are just getting started in this offseason. The manager is settled. That means that trade candidates and free agent candidates, we are right around the corner. And I cannot wait for all of that. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We will talk to you tomorrow. Until then, peace.